Hello, this is Dylan Gilbert for CIS 321. This is the research project that is due on Wednesday, April 16th. As you can see, Dylan Gilbert. Alright, for this assignment, I created a PowerPoint over 3D printing and just going to go through that right now. Alright, as I said, this is a 3D printing presentation, and the current date is April 14th, 2014. In this PowerPoint, I'm going to go over what is 3D printing, the positives and negatives to 3D printing, the uses of 3D printing, and the future of 3D printing. So we're going to start out with just a simple definition. I found this on the Oxford Dictionary's website. 3D printing is defined as a process for making a physical object from a three-dimensional digital model, typically by laying down many successive thin layers of a material. From this definition, I think you can kind of picture in your mind what 3D printing is. It's actually just a matter of just layering, in most cases, just plastic continuously in a digital blueprint to create some physical object, as the definition says. Later on in this presentation, there will be a short little clip that demonstrates 3D printing in action. Alright, so let's talk about the setup. Most 3D printers range anywhere from about $400 to $3,500. As you can see from the pictures provided, these could be anything from small little build-it-yourself kits for $3.99 to very advanced, complex 3D printers, probably to be used in like a professional manufacturer setting, as with the Replicator 2X or the 3D Touch. As the PowerPoint states, this all depends on the size and the assembly. If you buy kits that you have to build it yourself, they will typically run a little less expensive than the pre-built ones, ready to go right out of the box. But this all depends on the use, like your personal use for the 3D printing, or if it needs to be used, as we'll see later, in like a medical setting, or even, well, I'm not going to spoil it, but either personal use or for like a larger scale operation. Now, one of my first questions I had with 3D printing is how long, does it take? It's not simple like, you press a button and it's all good. But so I did some research and found these simple little nutcrackers. And according to the article I read this from, the nutcrackers took about 3 hours to print. Now this may seem like quite a long time, but if you consider, the complexity of it, as far as, it has a hinge and, just simple mechanics like that, this can be understandable. But anyway, a simple answer to how long does it take? Well, it depends. It depends on the size and complexity of what you are printing. The more simple stuff, like forks, spoons, nothing with hinges or anything complex at all, could take, 10 minutes, 20 minutes or so, while other things will take much longer, and this article even states to just let it run overnight. Alright, so now here's the video of 3D printing in action. It is from the Replicator 2X, which is one of the 3D printers I showed previously. And this example, it's actually creating a traffic cone. But the reason I found this video so intriguing is it shows the layering process. As you can see, it is a time lapse, obviously, so this took many hours to create. But as you can see, the 3D printer is just successfully layering just plastic onto the traffic cone in order to create the actual traffic cone. And as you can probably guess, this uses a lot of plastics, which we'll get into later. But Yeah, this is just a short little video just to show the actual creation of a 3D object. All right, good deal. All right, next we're going to discuss the positives about 3D printing, and then later on we'll discuss the negatives. What we'll cover is medical and space uses. All right, this was an article provided through Blackboard, and I took the time to kind of read into it. But first of all, medical uses, any type of medical uses from 3D printers could be very, very helpful. For instance, artificial implants can be created from 3D printers. Also not listed, prototyping. For instance, if I've heard on the news that, if someone has a heart defect, doctors can create a prototype of their heart and then, in a sense, just play around with it, just that model, before they actually go in and do surgery on the patient, to just see what would happen, as kind of like a simulation technique. So, this is very helpful. In this situation, as you can read there for yourself, the patient who had this Van Buchen's disease, lost her vision, motor impairment, all these, terrible things. So the doctors literally created an artificial skull for her, and it says in this last paragraph here that the patient fully regained vision, no more complaints, and no traces of the surgery at all. Like, to me, that's just very amazing. Anyway, the picture on the right actually shows this patient in the Netherlands, and it's just a totally artificial 3D printed plastic skull. So that seems to be a pretty positive use of 3D printing. All right, one of the more interesting uses for 3D printing include the use to send it up in space. I find this funny because, well, I'll just skip right to it. The third bullet here allows the astronauts to print space food, and this included space pizza, produced from a 3D printer. So, pretty neat thing. Anyway, by August of 2014, NASA's going to put one of these 3D printers in space. And this is very helpful not only for the space food proposition, but, obviously in NASA, or up in space, if the astronauts need a replacement part, they can't just, call up FedEx or UPS and have them deliver it. It would take, a lot of planning and a lot of people just to ship up some simple parts that they require. Well, if they had a 3D printer, you guessed it, they can print it themselves, repair it, everything's good. So this is potentially a really great thing that 3D printers can be used for. Alright, now we're going to discuss the negatives, and we'll go over guns and plastic consumption. 3D printers are able to produce firearms, and since anyone potentially can own a 3D printer, that means anyone can create one. This is semi a bad thing, and as this slide right here states, this guy Cody Wilson was kind of the first to, I guess, pioneer the 3D printed handgun, and he was asked by the U.S. government to take his blueprint off the website, because of the potential harm that could be done. So this is just something the government needs to regulate in the future, to be sure that no safety issue comes of this. Something not as violent, if you will, but plastic consumption. Printers are going to use a lot of plastic. The cheaper filament is this ABS, which is the most commonly used plastic, and this does not biodegrade like PLA. So in the future, a more reusable product needs to be developed for 3D printing. Alright, the future of 3D printing. As with everything, technology will expand and prices will drop. And this causes a big problem for, the warehouse, manufacturing powerhouse of the world, China. Because we'll no longer need to produce things in China. We can just do it here, save on shipping costs, and it's going to bring a beginning of a new era. 3D printing is it's going to happen, and it'll revolutionize the supply chain market. There are many great benefits, and think about this. In 10 years, will we think back about how did we ever get just function at all without a 3D printer? It's just some things to think about. It's very intriguing. Thank you for your time and attention, and I hope this presentation was helpful.